Hey, I wonder how many of you remember this bench build back in January where I built the pillars and showed the bench put together. Well, I said back then there was a purpose for this bench, and we'll get to that here in a second. But I'll tell you what, you notice that was January and I had a t-shirt on. But man, can the weather change quick. And anyway, what about that purpose? Well, meet this guy. His name is Craig.
You're really serious.
We'll get into that a little bit more
really
here in a
try
second.
hard.
Let's talk about this build first. So yeah, as you can see, January, of course, being January, and I had to be out here in the snow finishing the rest of it. But I didn't mind. I mean, do I really look like I'm all that cold? I'm kind of a hot-blooded person anyway. So what we got here, we built this bench. We built these pillars and these parts out of elm. And this elm had it was dry. In fact, this tree had been dead since we had moved into our house 7 years ago. So we cut it down and decided we'd make all kinds of stuff out of it. And we really did too. I mean, we used that tree up. And actually there's a piece of that stump still sticking out of the ground that this coming winter, I plan to carve some stuff, some owls or maybe an old man. I haven't really made up our mind. But that said, let's get back into this build. What am I doing? I'm putting these rings, and it's kind of strange at first. Most chainsaw carvings of a bench have like animals, bears, eagles, something of that nature. But this bench, first bench I was getting to build for somebody else, I'm putting these weird rings on it, as you see. Well, they're going to hold symbols, and these symbols belong to a fairly popular YouTuber. And these symbols are his symbols, the symbols he uses for his channel. But we'll get into that later. In the meantime, I'm just using my Stihl MS-171 with a 12-inch bar to make those rounds and to shape them. And here I can be seen cutting these symbols in. I'm using a Chicago Electric die grinder, and I'm using a Bauer 1/4-inch pointy burr. Now, I really like these burrs. You get a 2-pack of them for $15, and they're quarter drive. And they're fairly aggressive. They do a really good job. Plus, something else they do that I really like is, especially on dry wood, they leave a nice burn in it so it makes it stand out. And I really like that, especially when you're doing detail letters like this. It actually saves you from some work. You want these letters to stand out. You want this to stand out. And if you didn't want it to stand out, just don't push so hard. That said, you got to clean these up and make them look real nice. And as you can see, I've also carved a bear in the one pillar. Now, that symbol is the symbol for Bitcoin, BTC. More about that after a while. So next, I'll be using a little Forney round ball to make the letters bigger and make them stand out more. Clean those up. That's what I use to make the letters the size that they are. And it works out pretty good. Same thing, burns them in real nice. And you don't have to go back. You don't have to try to darken them in any way. It's burning as it's cutting. And how about what I'm cutting in there anyway? CS. What's that all about? Well, we'll get to that soon. But as you can see, I'm using that Forney round ball to also make the B for the BTC a lot more prevalent, make it stand out, make it a lot more visible. Well, next comes the backrests. And the backrests had to have their own carvings put into them that would be specific to this bench. Now, when you look at that, it definitely doesn't look like the average chainsaw carving of a bench. It might have an eagle or welcome or somebody's last name or something like that in it. Kind of looks like a bunch of squiggly lines. And that's what it is, until you realize what the purpose of these squiggly lines are. Okay, so here's the story on this bench. What you're seeing built and cut in right now is a chart. And the chart is used to make predictions based on what's already happened in the markets, be it the stock market, Dow Jones, Bitcoin, the NASDAQ, or any of those other types of markets. They all have charts and use charts. The charts show what happened in the past and what can be predicted happening in the future based on what's happened in the past. And that representation is being cut into these boards right now that make up the backrest. The straight lines represent measured moves that show predictable circumstances occurring based on what's happened in the past. Now maybe this seems a little bit odd for a bench that would be a chainsaw carved bench, but not really. When you find out who it's made for and why, it makes a lot of sense. So remember Craig from earlier? Well, that's who we're building this bench for. Well, who's Craig and what's all these squiggly lines got to do with anything? Well, Craig is Crypto Savy, and he has a YouTube channel with over 54,000 subscribers. And his channel is about market analysis for Bitcoin and the Dow Jones, all markets in the financial world. What Craig does is he teaches people how to read those charts and helps them to realize they can use those charts to help them make financial decisions based on what's in the charts. What's happened in the past leads to what could potentially happen in the future. Now, disclaimer for his sake, he always makes it clear, this is not financial advice. He is not a financial advisor. He's just teaching people what he has learned about dealing in the markets and how to read these charts and how everything happens in cycles. So basically, he teaches other people what he's learned. Why would a guy do that? Well, I'll tell you why a guy would do that. Because he's had bad experiences of his own in the past with the markets, and he doesn't want other people to go through the same things. And once he's figured out how to successfully navigate the markets and actually be able to make some money, or at least not lose any, that's a lesson in of itself. It's very valuable. So you got to really hand it to a guy that's willing to share that kind of information. And it's things like that why we decided we would build this bench for you. It's always nice to give back, and it's always nice to give to the givers. So once we get this project done, everything was dry, we headed north. Look at that! A bunch of rockets.
In about 12 miles, take exit 204 on the left.
I'm just doing my job on the highway patrol. You didn't have to look happy or anything like that.
I do not need to be.
It's just kind of...
You can record it longer, and then just cut it.
You're really serious. You really try hard to help people understand what they're looking at when they look at the chart and why things are and why over a period of time you're able to make predictions about what the market's going to do because of things that have occurred in the past. So I have a serious question for you. Who do you think is a better rocket builder, Bezos or Musk?
I'm gonna have to go with Musk.
Why do you say Musk?
Bezos rockets look a little too much like a penis.
So we got to check out where Crypto Savy does all his work. His studio that he does all his recording, as well as his own market analysis so that he could share what he's learned with others.
Too old. Too late 40-somethings or something. You 49 yet? What he said? Oh, you're 40. Okay, you're I kept thinking you were a year old. Woo! What is it? Hey y'all, how's it going? We brought this chainsaw carved bench up here. We built this with the Crypto Savy theme. Well, who is Crypto Savy? I'm sitting right next to him.
Good.
There's a
So
chart.
you guys can see it. He put some charts on there, picture of me. Obviously, Bitcoin logo, bears and the bulls on the side. Awesome job.
My crank didn't come out that good, but I'm a new carver, so I got a good excuse. Alright, sugar. We all like sugar.
Heading back home from hanging out with Crypto Savy. What do you think, boss lady? Did it go pretty good?
Great.
All right. Man, 3 miles to go. That's never good. Miles ago. Come back when you can stay later, you smuck.